Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And it brings me such great pleasure to introduce Conroy Browne. Conroy Browne is an innovator, an expert in personal development, and the pioneering founder of CB Wellness Lab, masterfully merges diverse disciplines for transformative wellness. As a master and trainer in neurolinguistic programming NLP, a certified hypnotherapist, and a proficient vibrational energy healer, he embraces a comprehensive approach to mental wellness. His signature CUE method, which integrates conscious hacking, unconscious rewriting, and energy retuning, features the innovative neutralizer technique, adept at resolving deeply ingrained, painful, or limiting memories. His altruistic soul care kit, Serene, donates 20% of its proceeds to children's healthcare, showcasing his commitment to healing and philanthropy. Conroy's work not only cultivates personal growth and relaxation, but also bolsters crucial mental health initiatives, all while creating and starting a thriving membership community on a collective journey towards wellness and self discovery. I welcome Conroy Browne. Welcome, Conroy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foti. It's a wonderful honor to be here with you today.
And I'm so excited to have you here on the show. I've been wanting to reach out to you, wanting to reach out to you. We finally connected. And I'm so thrilled because we have something in common, and that common base is personal development.
Mhm.
And I have taken a look at your work, it's phenomenal. Share with us a little bit about your work and approach and working with men.
Well, thank you. For me, the approach, I wanted to make everything accessible because for me, the way that I grew up, mental health and wellness was not something that was literally at the top of mind. And there was a lot of ideas that led one to believe that wherever you started out, the direction you started out, you were trapped on. And for me, what made the shift for me is I got a chance to see that once you start to understand more about the way that you work, we're able to shift and create more space. You're able to have more agency once you understand more about the way you work. So for me, I found that sometimes people have a tendency to focus on what they want to move consciously. And I want to show them how to make that easier by showing them where all those connections are between the conscious, unconscious, and energetic. So we're able to help people wherever they're at and help them move in the direction that they like to by showing them more about how they work. So that's the idea, helping people heal and evolve by helping teaching them more about how they work.
And what I love that you said is that you meet people where they're at. And
Mhm.
that's something that I hold dearly because people have a range of culture, of where they've been, of what they've been through.
Mhm.
Um, and it's helped cultivate where they're at the moment.
Yes.
And this expectation of, well, I'm here, so rise to the occasion. No, if you want to have a connection, if
Mhm.
you want to have a heart to heart where you
Mhm.
can reach a person, then you have to have something in common. And you
Yes.
need to engage people where they're at so that as you use examples, as you engage them,
Mhm.
they can in turn meet you and relate to the experiences that you're bringing to bear. And for me, I think that how my journey came and what I went through in life afforded me the opportunity to really look at that as a gift because everybody can't do it,
Yes.
right? So share with us
Mhm.
your journey of how you came to agency for others.
Well, thank you for such a that's a really wonderful question. For me, the answer is quite simple. I came to helping others with agency by first needing to find agency for myself. I was for quarter of a century one of the top editors in entertainment. I was incredibly successful, but I was also incredibly unhappy. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I had achieved what we were supposed to achieve. And but I was unfulfilled and I was unhappy. And the stress of show business had literally made me physically ill. I had gotten a skin related stress disorder that was literally sort of creating spots on me like a giraffe all the way up my body because of stress. And it was on that journey to find out how to deal with anxiety and stress for myself that I found out that the way that we move through the world is only us using a portion of what it is that we have the ability to do. And once you understand that anxiety, stress, uh, joy, laughter, these are all things, they're all components of a similar language. And once you start to understand that the underpinning language for all of that is how you focus your intention, where you focus your imagination, and how these different things connect. So for me, I started by learning NLP, and that taught me how we process language and information. And then you understand the difference. Words have power on many, many different levels. And that was a thing that as a man, we weren't really taught to do. We weren't taught to talk about things. You were taught to shut up, bottle up, and take action. So for me, my stress came from me not knowing how to express it, how to resolve it, not having ways to do that. And that's because we were not taught that emotions are all the same. They're not good ones or bad ones. They're just essentially, they're like turn signals. So it's like thinking that a right turn signal is better than a left turn signal. They're not. They're just telling you about where you're at versus a direction that you might want to go. So that's what started the journey for me, being in show business, having to deal with anxiety and not having tools, and being at the middle of my life and thinking that I had made a horrible mistake and I was destined to be unhappy for the rest of it. Once you find out that there's not only things that you can do to change where you're at today, but also change the way that things have affected you previously in the past, and also change the way that things in the future are affecting you, it gives you a lot more agency. And once I found that it was absolutely necessary for me to share this with people, because people need to know. People need to know that you can decide at any point and you can make incredible shifts, incredible healing, and incredible strides in your life at any point. And this is always the right time for a new adventure and a new chapter turn. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, does it make sense? You might as well be talking about my story. Because I had this same experience. I was working for corporate
Mhm,
Fortune 500 company, designing computer networks for a living, had
mhm.
everything that I wanted or could have asked for.
Yes.
And the unhappiness in
Mhm.
my heart was overwhelming. And I was like, there has to be another way to live. There absolutely has to be another way to live. And
Yes.
then on top of that, coming down with an illness, and for me, it was my lymphatic system was
Mhm.
completely inflamed. And I didn't realize it until a nodule was popping out of my neck, almost the size of a golf ball. And I
Mhm.
hadn't even noticed it until I went to a chiropractic appointment and they had to tell me because I was so checked out of my body
Mhm.
that I didn't know. And that journey from that point on just led me to a series of experiences that one showed me that there was another way,
Mhm.
two, that I wasn't the only one unhappy, and three, that had I not changed my current situation, it would have killed me. The stress does kill you.
Yes.
It may not kill you like you're gone overnight, but
Yeah.
what it does is it wears at you little by little until your body completely breaks down. Because, as you said, the power of our words
Hmm.
actually has an impact in the waters of our body, which
Hmm.
records everything that we're saying and thinking. And if you think about that, for the
Hmm.
moment that you are stressed,
Yes.
upset, angry, for the good percentage of your time,
Hmm.
that your body is physically reacting to that, which is
Yes.
accumulating all of these issues and
Yes.
imbalances within the body.
Hmm.
And hence, we are not alone.
Exactly.
So I wanted to share the story too, and I'm just smiling inside and through and through because I'm like, yes, yes, I know that, I went through that. So I would like to ask you, for me, there was a leap of orbit.
Hmm.
There was an octave that raised, a culmination of a couple of things that happened in my life
Hmm.
that brought me to that precipice of shifting my life completely, how I viewed it, how I navigated it, and how I chose to see it
Yes.
and embrace it. What was that for you?
That's so wonderful that you asked that. It was actually, for me, it was because of the order of the things that I learned. As I said, I started with NLP, the neurolinguistics. About a year after that, I was lucky enough to be brought back by the people that trained me to get to help to work and start to help train another class of people. And it was during that time, there was a woman, her name was Betty, uh, an absolutely amazing, wonderful teacher. She was in her early 60s. And this was a woman that had not been on an airplane since she was 14 years old. And she was a teacher, and she had this incredible desire to go to Italy to work with these other teachers that had this unique teaching concept that she wanted to bring to where she lived, back here to the States to where she lived. And she wasn't able to do it. And she wasn't able to go and spend time with her kids and her family that had gone and scattered across the country to live their lives. And I remember getting a chance to teach. I was teaching, I taught the students, and I taught another student, Tiare, who had very little confidence in herself, taught her that and proved to her that once you understand more about the way you work, there's nothing that you can, there's no way to get it wrong. It's a matter of just simply asking questions and listening, being willing to listen and creating the space for people. And to see that she was able to, in 20 minutes, collapse and get rid of a phobia that Betty that this woman had had for over 45 years.
Wow.
It to see the burst in confidence that it had in the in Tiara, the young lady that cured the phobia, was one thing. And then to see the shift that it made for Betty, and then to find out and to know, because I know that 2.5, 3 weeks after that, so after she was cured, she went to Italy. She got to go and live that dream. I realized that I could not continue to move forward doing what I used to do, as much as I love being in show business, as much as it was an honor for me to do that. I couldn't continue to tell fictional stories when it was possible to show people how to edit and change and rewrite their own real true life stories. And that's what made the shift for me. I realized that I couldn't in good faith sit there and watch people in fear and in pain and in trauma and be able to help them and be able to
Mhm.
help them find out how to help them, teach them how to help themselves. So that's what made the shift for me. And that's when I realized that I had to find a way to make this my life.
Beautiful. And so, how did you make it your life? How did you make it your life?
I actually started when I, strangely enough, right after I had finished my initial training with NLP. Before I became a certified hypnotherapist, I went back, and a friend of mine, the day after I got my training, a friend of mine had passed away of leukemia, and
Mm,
that put me into a situation where there were things I understood about the way that people interact with information, and there are things that people instinctively do when someone's grieving that are things that will sometimes anchor a state of pain into someone. And if you've ever seen someone, like anytime their arm is touched they start to cry, it's because at a certain point there might have been something anchored in there that was well intentioned, but there were sort of these things. So I got an opportunity to start there, and then from that I realized that there was something that a friend of mine, the person that trained me, my Obi-Wan, said to me. He said, if you use this every day, these skills every day, you'll become better than Nikki and better than myself. So I started to do that. I would work on myself every day, and I would work on other people in show business. And people in the show in the entertainment industry saw the difference in the way I was able to communicate with people, how effectively, how I was able to get answers that they couldn't get. And they couldn't understand, how is it that you're in this business that's predicated on stress and you no longer are feeling anxiety over this constant hamster wheel of anxiety? And I explained to them, well, once you understand it, then it can never affect you the same way. And that's when that sort of happened for me, because anxiety that's my nemesis, because the idea that something that might or might not happen in the future has the ability to not only affect your today, but if you let it continue, that anxiety gets, I let people know, if you crank that wheel all the way up to 11, and that stress, that anxiety, that thing that might or might not happen tomorrow can kill you today. So it was literally that. So I started to, you're going to love this. I went sort of Batman. I started to heal from the shadows. I would heal people as they came into my edit room, but then I got my first office like about 3 or 4 blocks away from one of the places that I edited. And I would see clients in the morning and in the evening around my old career in the beginning. And that's how I started doing that.
That's phenomenal. And for people who don't know show business, and by the way, I happen to, my sister went to Juilliard and she did Broadway, she did off Broadway, I mean, New York City all the way. So I get it. And if you've ever been around show business people, anxiety is 100% or 150% what everyone has. Everyone.
Yes.
So that must have been a phenomenal way to really, really be able to help some people because, yeah, you weren't lacking for resources in terms of to practice. But wow, that's phenomenal. And so, where did that lead you to next?
Well,
Where did
what happened is that I had the thing that actually made me make the final shift is that there was a class that we were taking. There was one of the classes that I had helped and Nikki teach. There was a couple. They were thought leaders, well-known young individuals, and very powerful, very charismatic. So I bought their book. I was very happy for them and what they were moving forward. So they had their first kid. They lived not too far from me, so I reached out to just let them know I was literally offering to babysit so they can get some time and go and do something for themselves. And it was at that point that Preston Smiles, he said to me, he said, Conroy, well, why are you not doing this full time? He said, I don't need you to watch my kids. I need you to come and help me with this conscious men's brotherhood, help me with this men's group, and asked me if I would come and be one of the people that would facilitators and work with the men's group. And it was like that call to get off the bench. And it was when I realized that there's some benefit to explaining things, to having a different point of view. So many of the things that I do now, I understand on a deeper intrinsic level, but I wasn't able to hear when they were first said to me, because sometimes the language around things sometimes creates a barrier. So
Mhm.
some of the ways that things are spoken about, men don't really click into, like some stuff that feels too woo-woo. I remember talking to people about energy work, and people don't be like, I don't really get that, man, but it's like, but you do get it. Everyone's felt these things. So once you're able to explain things to people and communicate with them in their map of the world, it really changes it. And I think there was a definite need to do that across the board for all different types of people. And for me as a man, I have a facility to be able to explain it to in different terms. There's a way that, well, intuition, some people shy away from, but if you call it instinct, it'll click in. They'll immediately get it. You get what I'm saying? If you talk
Mhm.
about if you talk about a certain frequency and all of these things, it sounds, well, that might not be accessible. But if you talk about the vibe of something, everyone's walked into a room and felt whether the vibe was felt right or felt off. Everyone's has a sort of this experience, and it's just sort of drawing them and helping them connect their language to their experience so that they can shift more parts of it.
That is absolutely wonderful. So when you walk into a group, and I know when I walk into a group,
Mhm.
a lot of times people will go, "Oh, aren't you prepared? Do you have your plan? Is your plan laid out?" And I have a hard time explaining that every group has an energetic
Mhm.
to it.
Mhm.
And that when you are conscious enough and sensitive enough, you can walk into it and you can tell that something pre planned is not going to work.
Mhm.
And it's hard to explain, but collectively, when that group is together and collectively, when they're putting forward all of the different places that they've been to and they've experienced, they've brought it all right there to that one center spot. And then you're supposed to interject and get them to feel the, like you said, the vibe of a
Mhm.
specific thing that you're talking about.
Mhm.
That there is an art to it. There's an art to understanding the energetics. Do you
Yes.
want to comment on that a little bit? Because I think it's important for people to understand. We come in there and we come pre-planned and we're going, I'm going to read this. And
Mhm.
then the ones who just read this, they're not checked in. And that's
Yes.
why they don't engage and they lose people.
Yes. Yes. I think that's you bring up a really important point. It's you can, as much as one can prepare, you cannot prepare for everything, but that's fine. You don't have to have an answer for everything. You just have to bring forth the things that are the most important. So what I always remember is that by showing up, make it interactive. You want to find out, as you say, with every group has a different feeling. And from that feeling is going to come the way that you connect with them. But the way that you connect with people is always the same. It's about A, seeing them, creating a space that becomes a space that you guys that whoever's involved gets to now go sharing this experience. And then, like everything else, we're creatures of story. How is it that you're going to capture their imagination? How is it that you're going to get across the idea, the thought, the concept, the lesson? Because however you were planning to do it or thought you were going to do it, what you in the end want is to be able to connect with them on a level where you guys feel connected, and then you want to generate curiosity and interest, and you do that by engaging people and engaging their imagination.
Well said, well said. I love it. I absolutely love it. So, how large are the groups that you usually work with, and where has that taken you across the world?
The groups vary in size, anywhere from groups of 10 to 20 up to 40 to 50, from different places. I'm brought in sometimes by ad agent. I was brought in by an ad agency to speak to 12 young, incredibly talented directors that they were coupling with prime sponsors. And what they wanted to do is they were introducing these people to luminaries across, and they brought me in to speak about mental health. For me, what it is that everyone has a specific point of view and a specific way that they can be helped. There's this misperception that that I need this or I need that or I need something else for one to be able to move forward towards what one wants. That's not at all the way that I work with people. So what I always train people to is it's real simple. We're going to take what we have from where we are to get where we're going. And that always starts by creating a space for people to first express what is it, where's the friction point? What is it that they would like? What is it they need? Because there's this underlying sort of thing that was very beautiful with working with groups where working with that group of directors, they couldn't understand why the trope of the tortured artist and all of these things. They couldn't understand why their anxiety was at the level. I was explaining to one of the directors that had panic that would have panic attacks, that all these things that you're told are problems are just different ways that your system works. A panic attack is a terrible thing because you have a fear that's jacked into your system and your system is cranked up. You're feeling it physically in your body. It's the only thing you can focus. Everything else is screened out. It becomes the entire thing and it can drive your entire emotional adrenal system. Yeah, but suppose there's something you're excited about that's placed in that. And then you can bring that focus to it and that energy and that passion. And I was able to explain to them that the reason that their effects are so intense is because the mechanism for what you feel fear with is your imagination. What you feel anxiety with is your imagination. So if you're a professional who your imagination is supercharged, it would make sense that
Right.
that would be more intense. So wherever someone is, you're able to find whatever their specific situation is. That was a very different situation than when I was brought in by Children's Hospital to work with the nurses. And with nurses, it was a very different thing where this is a group of people and their specific sort of thing that came up was, how do you maintain compassion? How do you maintain that? There would be compassion fatigue. How do you be there and be with people at their worst, where people are vibrating at their worst and are most fearful every day, all day, and not have it affect you? Well, the answer is it's not possible. And that's why that's why they need a different set of tools. So once people understand, it doesn't matter where you're at, that it is possible for you to get help to move forward. That's one of the things that I found that was super important, no matter what sort of group it was. And for me, that's one of the things that I love, is I love to design things specifically for a group
Mhm.
that can help them around a specific set of circumstances, or help them to learn and achieve something new. So that's it varies from group to group, but those are some of the things that I say stay consistent, by showing people how to maximize the experience they're already having, and how to tweak what they're experiencing by utilizing the underlying framework for all experience. There's an underlying framework for all experience that I believe is the secret 13th law of the universe. So um,
Mm, beautiful, beautiful. So, we as energy practitioners,
mm,
a lot of times we're working with people, and people don't realize that there is a certain amount of energy work that's actually taking place while we work.
mhm,
How does that how does that come through you while you're working? Because for me, and I'll give an example, give
mhm,
you a chance to think about this one, because it's a big ask, right?
mhm,
For me, when I'm working with a group, I know that the tone of my voice,
mhm,
I know that I'm purposely exuding a
mhm,
certain vibration,
mhm,
and a certain vibration to either be calming
mhm,
or to be engaging, to,
mhm.
to, to grab that attention, to make sure that they're fully present, you
Yes.
know, and then what I'm actually saying captivates
Mhm,
in order to get the attention so that I can move the group and navigate through the
mhm.
material that I want to go to. And people don't realize that that dynamic takes place.
Yes.
What does it, what is it for you?
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And this is one of the reasons, one of the things that I like about, the reason that I actually, my interest took me is between the neurolinguistics, which is the mechanics of how we process information, the energy work, which is how we experience it, and the unconscious programming, which takes care of everything when you're not focusing. There is something that I found that was really helpful for me to share with people about energy work, and it works across the board. This is something that came from NLP. It's like I always make sure that you calibrate where people are at. People want to feel a difference. People want things to change. And the easiest way for them to notice if something changes is for them to first notice exactly where they are and where they're at right here, right now at the beginning of this. And then there's a way that by doing that, you connect the entire group with this moment, with you right here, right now, and you allow them to all calibrate where we are at the beginning of this, because we're all here. There's this excitement. There's this journey that we're here to go on. So the best way to enjoy it is to, now we're here, let's look around. Okay. And I have them check in with themselves across the entire spectrum. I have them check in with, say, well, look around. What does it look like to you? What does it sound like to you? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like as we're getting started on this adventure? So you have them check in with themselves, because we're used to doing this. Well, because we want to know. We like this, then we don't like this. But we know on a scale of 1 to 10, sometimes I'm feeling like, all right, I'm coming in here because I'm feeling kind of physically like a 2 or a 3, and I'm hoping that I feel better. So by giving them a way to notice specifically where they're at and specifically where they want to go, I think that helps people understand, because it takes it from it being so subtle to having you to tune into the subtleties of your experience and understand that how, while you may not at first notice it consciously, that as soon as you're feeling it energetically, you will know, it will start to filter up. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. And
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for sharing with that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your hypnotherapy for a little bit,
Yes.
because that which we plant as a seed can grow.
Yes.
And the mind of the not the mind, the conscious versus the subconscious versus the unconscious
Conscious. Yes.
realms are so intricate.
Hmm.
Talk to us about how hypnotherapy affords the receiver to release, to birth something that which they've always wanted.
Yes.
Dwell within, really for me, I perceive it as dwelling within the realms of the dimensions
Hmm.
and then calling it something so that people feel comfortable with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I think that the way that I always, one of the ways I work on getting it across to people is that people have this experience where they're consciously, they want to move in a direction. Consciously, they want to move in a direction, or they want to do something. And when they're focused on it, they're moving in that direction, but they find themselves constantly drifting back and not being able to stay on course. And the reason for that sometimes is that what people don't understand is that that for your entire day, whatever you're focusing on is the only thing that your mind can focus on. So when you're focusing an idea, where you're going to work, or you're driving to work, or you're cooking a meal, that's 5% of your brain that's focusing on the task that you're doing. The other 95% of your brain is working on automatic programming, whatever that automatic programming that's been there. Whether and then once people realize that, and yes, programming that you did not specifically choose, programming
Mhm.
that other people choose, programming that might not be relevant, programming that's sometimes fighting against your specific conscious purpose. So once people understand that, then they understand the values, and they understand that well, then the next thing is to explain to them this: there's a reason that simple willpower won't work. You can't just big dog your
Right.
unconscious or your subconscious mind into doing stuff, because it doesn't work that way. People yell at themselves, people do all of these things, and what they're doing is they're adding a vibration to their cells. They're adding
Yep.
that stuff energetically, but it will not change your unconscious programming, because your unconscious programming does not connect with language in the same way. It doesn't respond to the same types of words, the same types of pacing. So there's certain things, as you said, that you do that you do when you're working with people, when you're putting them in trance, when you're helping them. So there's certain things you do with your voice in terms of the texture of it, how you allow
Yeah.
it to move or not move, or pauses. There are ways that you can add energy or add different things to it. So for me, what you get to do is I always let people know, I always approach it this way. Do you want to try something cool? And if they say, well, yeah, it's like, suppose you can then get to the point where you can now start to input whatever new systems you want. And all you have to do is be willing to lay back and relax and allow us to take you on a journey where we just describe you through different things and take you on and to have that shift. So in the beginning, it takes a little bit of time for people to first understand the way that it works, because these are things that sometimes have been there for a very long time, but it's very, very powerful once you sort of take control of the things that are happening for you automatically. It's sort of, people get very excited about that agency. And I think that once people start to understand that that your unconscious mind and your conscious speaks to you in a different way. Your unconscious mind will speak to you in not in fully formed sentences the
Yes.
same way that your conscious mind will. It will speak to you in memories, in images, in scents and smells, in things that will remind you of the emotional context, the physical feeling, and all these other things about what it wants you to get. So it's like we were talking about a little bit earlier. You start to see that the things that you're feeling, they're no longer good or bad. They're just really good information as to what direction we need to be moving in to be more aligned, what direction we need to be moving in to be more at peace. And these things that we used to be termed as negatives are there to point out information for us to use. And once you're able to take all that stuff, you can then go into your unconscious mind and start to change the things. Then I'm like, you know what? I'd like this to be part of my automatic behavior now.
Yes. Yes. And I love what you're saying, and I love the fact that you can pick up on the automatic behaviors and patterns and everything else, and you can just really, really pull them apart. My
Mhm,
question to you would be this: when somebody is engaged and they're basically saying, okay, I want my life to shift,
mhm.
where do you begin? What is the advice that you would share with them?
Where I begin, you begin with this. You begin with where is. You always begin with where they're at, right?
Yes.
And then the question is, where would you like to be if you could do anything? If you could unleash your soul and your soul could do whatever it wanted, what would that be? Because that's going to tell you where it is that you want to go. Then the next part is to figure out, well, what's the friction point? What's the holdup? What's standing in the way? And once we get that, then the secret is to, people sometimes will have a tendency to get overwhelmed by the
Mhm.
scale of wanting to shift and or change. And once you're able to remind them of a couple of basic facts that are kind of truisms of life, when you think about it, it's like everyone loves beginnings, everyone is racing to get to the finish line. And almost everything that we're doing, except for one thing, what's the one thing nobody's racing to the finish line for? life.
Right.
That's in the essence of what we do, is the one place that we really truly get it, that the magic isn't the beginning or the end, it's all the stuff that happens in between. And then what you're able to show them is that, so then we're not trying to get to the end. All we need to do is figure out from here, what step do we want to take now? What's the easiest step we can take, moving us in the direction that we want? And then what's the next step? And you show them how that's how you build momentum. Because there's this sort of mistaken idea where people have a tendency to sometimes be waiting for inspiration to strike, for momentum to show up. That's not the way
Mhm.
that it works. Momentum comes from action. You take a little action and a little bit more action, a little bit more action, then all of a sudden your body's doing it and you're feeling it and things are happening, and then you're there, and then momentum comes.
Yes.
So it's we're all driven by wanting to feel
Yes.
something. All behavior is always doing one of two things. It's either taking you closer to pleasure or further from pain. So once we figure out what we're doing right now, then we actually switch it so that we're
Yes.
always moving closer towards pleasure, so that we're always putting out the vibration in the affirmative of what it is that we want.
Exactly. You know, I always have the saying, dream a beautiful dream or you will be dreamt, which is that if
Yes.
you don't hold a vision for yourself
Hmm.
and allow life to become a walk to that vision, then you
Yes.
live your life being dreamt, which means
Hmm.
that what people project onto you, what people state that you should be doing, you're going to be trying to live up to it. And that's like a dangling carrot, right? You never
Yes.
really reach it. And you never
Yes.
can reach it. You know why? Because people's perception of what you should be
Hmm.
change all the time. People
Yes.
don't have a solid, this is
Hmm.
what it has to be and this is what it has to look like and it'll always be like that. It changes because new
Yeah.
information, new circumstances, new things happen all the time. So you
Yes.
have to hold the vision for yourself, and when you align with that vision, then you create the next vision and the next
Yes.
vision. But
Yes.
you make, not make, but you move towards that goal. You create the momentum
Yes.
towards that goal by
Yes.
holding the vision in the first place.
Yes, you do. You're absolutely right. And I think that's really important. The reason that I created the neutralizer was that there are things that hold people, the things that hold people back.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter whether it's someone that's on a lifelong journey of learning or someone that just got their butt kicked. What happens is, because we're creatures of story, we're story-driven creatures.
Right.
It's the way that you remember these experiences that have happened to you that will determine the breadth of your safety zone. The outer fence to your life is determined by your fears. Your fears are determined by the things that you remember, that you hold on to, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
People think that shit that happened to them, pardon me, um, can't be changed.
Mhm.
You don't have to change the thing that happened to you. All You don't have to change the things that are happening to you. All you need to change is the way that the things that are happening outside of you are affecting you. And once people understand that, it becomes super empowering, where it's like, I don't need to change it. I just need to be able to say, okay, this is it. This is how it's affecting me. All right, I get this information. And now I make a choice for myself that's going to
Yeah.
make a different choice. And so for me, I thought it was really important to create something that neutralizes this, because they're legitimate traumatic events that have happened in people's lives. And there are also things that people are so traumatic that they cannot speak about. So that was another thing that was also important for me, to create a transformation, a solution for people where we can change it. I can change it for you. I don't need to know the specifics of
Exactly.
exactly what it is. All I need to know is, how are you seeing it? How are you hearing it? What is it?
Mhm.
And I just go through the literal specific connections. Every moment in existence, in time, has a specific vibration. Every moment in your life has a specific signature. And it's going to be, and it has to be made up of certain components. It doesn't have to have all of them, but it's impossible for it to have none of them. Everything that you're experiencing, whether it's imagined, real, happened in your past, present, or future, has visual, auditory, kinesthetic, meaning feelings, and literally touching and feeling, olfactory, gustatory, and energetic information. All of your experience is some combination of that. And once you understand that, then we show you, then we're able to show you how you're able to interact with those different components. It changes, because now you're able to now literally flip the switches on these things, and then the thing that used to hold someone back, the thing that was in 11 or 12, it's people are amazed. They're like, well, that you see them feeling for the tether. But now, once that fear is no longer there, you still have the experience, you still have the understanding, but now the emotional baggage, the trauma's not there. It now it pushes back the boundaries of their world. And now they start to look at all these other things. Well, why won't I do that? Well, that thing, I was afraid of it back then. And then you can start to collapse all these things and you can expand.
Right, right. You put that so beautifully. And I know we're coming up on an hour that quickly. Can you believe it? I feel like I've only been talking to you for 5 minutes. So, knowing the beautiful work that you do and the space that you hold, how can people get in contact with you? And what is the thing that you want to leave with our audience?
Okay.
Last idea.
Okay. People can get in contact with me at conroybrowne.com, ConroyBrowne.com. And the thing I want to get across to people, the thing I'd like to leave you with is I want you to remember that the most important thing for you to feel the way you want to feel is not coming from something that's outside making you feel that. I want you to remember that the thing that's going to make the biggest difference in your life is not you changing the way that anything outside of you is working, but changing the way that you focus inside and changing your perspective, and always knowing that where you are is the perfect place to start moving in the direction that you want to go, and that you have the things that you need for you to grow within you. And your imagination is the most powerful tool that you have. What you focus on, what you imagine, what you put attention, intent, and belief on is what you will generate in your life.
So beautifully said. Thank you so much. That was Conroy Browne. And I just want to tell our audience, if you enjoyed this and you enjoyed what Conroy had to say, please, please, please like us. Share this episode. Gift this episode to someone, because you know that there's someone out there that needs to hear it. And Conroy, thank you for coming. We welcome you. I'm just so thrilled, and to have you here to share your wisdom. What a blessing.
It was truly an honor to get a chance to connect with you, and I want to say thank you to all of the people that have been part of your community and continue to support you in your important work. And remember, you are love. Be that.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Conroy. And thank you to our audience. And we'll see you on the next episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. Bye-bye, everyone.